this is the key, which I think a lot of people don't understand, is the secrets in the follow-up. So when I go to networking events, it's not that much these days, or a lot of Zoom networking. To me, I'm trying to get as many contacts as I can, which I know there's some mixed feelings on that. But again, you're not going to you can't make a relationship in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It's
Right.
hard. You can't. So I get as much, and then I'll follow up and see if I can get on a Zoom call or grab coffee if they're local. And that's where you start to build relationships.
Welcome to Be Bold Branding, where we discuss the power of differentiating yourself through your own unique story and standout personal brand.
Can introverts actually be better at networking than extroverts? Today, we're joined by Steve Spiro, a self-described introvert who became a master connector by doing the opposite of what most sales advice teaches. Instead of fighting who he was, he leveraged it, drawing on his martial arts training as a black belt in karate and jiu-jitsu to develop an authentic approach to connection. Through his book, The Tao of a Master Connector, and his LinkedIn Live show, Steve now teaches other introverts that their perceived weakness can become their greatest networking strength.
Steve, welcome to Be Bold Branding.
Well, I appreciate it. That was great. I was wondering who you were talking about, but I appreciate it. But thank you for having me. What's going on, everyone? Steve Spiro, the Master Connector, coming at you live and direct. And so it's been a wild journey for sure. But
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Steve, tell us a little bit about that. Like real briefly, tell us your background and what led you to doing exactly what you're doing now, helping these introverts, because we all need this.
Of course. And so, you know, as you sort of mentioned in the intro or in the bio there, you know, I was born and raised in the Bronx and picked on and bullied, learning disabled, dyslexic, a lot of rejection in my life. And you know, I don't know if it was something in my DNA or genetics, but either way, I became an introvert. And, you know, my best friends growing up were Captain Kirk, Ralph Cramden from the Honeymooners, and Felix Unger from the Odd Couple. I mean, I was like, I literally closed myself in my room and that was it. And I didn't even, you know, kind of, you know, interact with my family either. I was just in my room. And then I wound up going into high school for advertising and marketing for graphic design. I commuted in, so it was great because I didn't have to deal with anybody. I got in and I got out. There was no community. And then I commuted in for college for advertising, graphic design as well. Got out of college, couldn't get a job, started a company. And, you know, that was crazy because yes, I was a creative, but then at the same time, I was also the guy, because it was just my partner. And then we started to hire some people, but I was the smile and dial guy getting us appointments. That was definitely a learning experience. And I was also the collections guy. I had our clients paying net 15 or net 20 days. That was unheard of, but I was able to do that. And yeah, so, and you know, it was just an interesting experience. And then, like you said, I went on to get a couple black belts in the martial arts and, you know, but all these things kind of helped me a little bit, but I never knew how to connect with people. And I'd rather, you know, as a martial artist, I'd rather hit you than talk to you, you know, and so it was in that environment, in that arena, I had my role, and I was always good in the role that I had, but being out there, definitely not me. And so, you know, here I am. I went a meeting, getting introduced to an incredibly successful entrepreneur who was exactly not what I was. He was outgoing, extroverted. He was charismatic. He was funny. But I admired him and I saw peace in his eyes and I'm like, I want that. And I want that success. And so after taking me under his wing and getting me on this path of self-development, books and audios, and he started having me network. He said, Steve, I want you to meet 3 strangers every day. And, you know, I mean, if you're listening to this and you're not from New York, you probably, oh yeah, no, that's no big deal. But in New York, you're going to get kidnapped or killed, you know, like if it happens.
That's a big deal.
It is a big deal. And I did it, still do it to this day. It still stretches me. So that kind of allowed me to kind of start getting out of my shell. And eventually, as you said, I pivoted over into the sales world and I did some pretty hardcore door-to-door sales. And that was crazy. And still, you know, still the skills I learned doing that. And, but I, you know, over time, I just evolved. And, you know, I think the biggest turning point for me was during COVID. And so I started growing a network. I started growing my LinkedIn presence. I started to get, you know, pretty substantial LinkedIn connections. I think at this point, I have like 18,000 contacts on my phone and 30,000 LinkedIn connections. And so At one point, I just for kicks and giggles applied for LinkedIn Live, which it was really heavily coveted. You could not get approved for it, but I got approved pretty quickly. And so that led to launching the Master Connector show. But I also started asking me to speak. And so, I'm an inspirational speaker now. And so in addition to all that, and I think the show and now the book, as you reference, right, the Tao of a Master Connector, right? It's this is all as a part of kind of supporting the goal of being a speaker. And so what I speak about today is breaking barriers to create real human connection in this digital era. We're in a very, very connected world, but the screen has created a barrier. Speak on how to break those barriers through being authentic, being others focused, having grit, and building community, growing connection. So yeah, that was a really long answer to your short question, but that's a little bit of my background and kind of how I got there. And so through speaking, through the show, through the book, it's all about, right? The subtext is the way an introvert became a master connector. And so it's all about, hey, if this crazy introvert, can do it, anyone can do it.
Yeah. Well, let's build on that theme right there, because I want to be vulnerable right up front. I've been an auctioneer for 30 years. I've been in front of big crowds. I'm in front of crowds every week. Never really nervous about that at all, because I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm supposed to do when I get there and when I sit down. But if you take me out of that environment and put me in a different environment, okay, now you got to sell antiques, or now you got to sell this, expensive vase or something to these different crowd of people. All of a sudden, I could fall in. I might be an introvert too. You know what I'm saying? So I think that totally all humans, even if you're outgoing, all humans do have that reserved portion of themselves where they're like scared to show or that authenticity or whatnot. And because Tanya sold vacuum cleaners door to door.
Whoa.
Y'all could speak some language right here. Right. Talk to us about door-to-door sales. Like, did that help you in this journey of overcoming your introvertedness?
And what did you sell?
Well, I got to tell you, you sold door-to-door, like, and you guys are, where are you? You're in the South, right?
Yes. We're north of Atlanta. Yes.
Yes. People are friendly in the South, but in New York, they're not. So I can't even imagine. And my dad back in the day, so what was that?
I said, I know I've been there with this voice.
So, but my dad sold door-to-door Electrolux back in the day. And, but no, I didn't, at least mine was B2B door-to-door. So it's less like,
little less.
I sold Electrolux.
She's an Electrolux lady. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. 3 years. It paid my way through college.
But to answer your question, I sold copiers, and on the evolutionary scale, below the chimpanzee and the orangutan is the copier salesman. So I figured if I could do that, I'd do anything, and did well, and they actually thrived at it. And I think because I came to the table with a little bit of a different approach. I said, to your point when you were introducing me, I was like, I have this. Well, first of all, I have a creative brain. I'm dyslexic, as I mentioned, learning disabled. I learned how to process things differently, be a little more creative about how I approach things. So I was like, okay, I'm going to approach this differently. And I started to think, okay, what's ways to do that? And so that started to that journey of creative problem solving in terms of trying to connect with people. And as an introvert, what I've learned is introverts are actually really good networkers and connectors because we like to listen. And and listening is the key to really connecting, because when people feel like they're heard, and in sales, better than anyone, it's just tough in door-to-door, right? But if you could find out a need, want, or desire, right? I think Dale Carnegie said in his book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, if you find out what somebody wants, they'll move heaven and earth to get it. And so through asking questions and being others focused and those kinds of things, and really genuinely interested and caring, then people start to open up, and you could start to say, hey, I may have a way to help you. And that could be some of the things you're offering or selling or marketing, but then maybe other ways too. Like maybe in my case, I love to leverage my network. Hey, who can I introduce you to? Because that's a value. And I'm not looking for anything in return for that. I'm not looking for, okay, well, if I connect you, I want something back for it. No,
right.
It's the way I do.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about some of those steps.
Yeah. Well, and I want to ask something, first, Steve, what fundamental misconception do people usually have about networking that keeps them from actually doing it?
I think a lot of people go in there doing it's the whole pitch thing, and I'll tell you
Yeah.
a quick story. I learned through stories, and I think a lot of people understand through stories. So, here I am, somewhat middle stages of my networking. I had some experience now, and I love going back. This just before COVID, so being out in public and networking events, and I love going with a partner, if you will. And what I mean by a partner, somebody else is there to network, maybe do totally not what I do, but just someone you can go with. And so I like, often you could work the room and you could say, hey, you need to speak to my friend Tyler over there, and it's a good way to go. And then you can kind of compare notes and maybe do a little friendly competition. How many connections did you make, and so forth. Anyway, so here we are. We're at this event, and there's these speakers. There are like 5 speakers, and we wanted to go up and introduce ourselves to one of the speakers. And as we did, Tyler jumped in, and the speaker asked him, "What does he do?" And 15 minutes later, he was still going. And I'm like, and I didn't say anything on the spot, but later, a few days later, I said, you may want to think about that. And so I've learned ditch the pitch. Yeah. You need like 20, 30 seconds on what you do, and then make it all about them, and not try to pitch them on the spot. So I think a misconception is you have to, number one, you have to be ready with your elevator pitch. I'm not a big elevator pitch guy. I like to come up with something that's intriguing, that have people want to lean in and say, And, listen, ultimately, you're not, in my opinion, you're not going to create a relationship at a networking event. Or in my case, the world is my networking event. So at the gas station or at the supermarket online, and where I'm meeting people like randomly. But you're going to make a connection in that, they're going to be like, seems like an interesting guy. I wouldn't mind, staying in touch with this person and see how maybe he could be a blessing to me somehow. So that's number one, is making sure that you're asking a lot of questions. You're not trying to, but the secret is, and this is the key, which I think a lot of people don't understand, is the secret's in the follow-up. So when I go to networking events, it's not that much these days, or a lot of Zoom networking. To me, I'm trying to get as many contacts as I can, which I know there's some mixed feelings on that. But again, you're not going to you can't make a relationship in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It's hard. You can't. So I get as much, and then I'll follow up and see if I can get on a Zoom call or grab coffee if they're local. And that's where you start to build relationships. So that's I believe, a misconception. So yeah, I might be accused of the guys that the guy that goes out there to collect cards. By the way, I'm collecting cards, not giving out my business cards, because it's not about that. It's about seeing who I could connect with, and then look to follow up and see who I can really be a blessing to, and that others focus, be Go Giver, Bob Berg, the book, and John David.
Oh, we love Bob Berg.
Yeah, he's great. He's on our show as well. Yeah, but it's being a go-giver, and then also being authentic. I knew you started, with authenticity, right? So that's a huge factor as well, as being authentic and being able to share some of your vulnerability, because again, it breaks barriers, walls come down, And I think
so. Do you lead with that some, like in the follow-up phase of this, like you lead with that? So, hey, I'm really an introvert. You might not believe that type of thing. Like bring a focus to that, and that actually, because the odds are a lot of people you connect with are too, or at least feel that there's some portion of them that is. Well, I think we all do, in some way.
Yeah. So when I do a connect call or a coffee, I like to start our, and I think Tanya, you and I did this, but we connected. But I like to start with, I'd love to hear your story, your journey, not just what you do, but the born and raised, the whole nine. And I'll tell you my story, and we go from there. So I start most of my calls. I sort of said, after the small talk and, hey, where in the world are you? And, I like to start there, and, whatever chit chat, how's your day going? But then I go there, and then often they start. I prefer if they start, because I could kind of get a feel for where they're at in terms of their life. And then I'll tell my story. And yes, to your point, in my story, I will mention, the introversion. I will mention the bullied, the learning disability. I'll mention, the copier sales guy at one point. I mean, I'll get into it all, because I feel like it really breaks those barriers down. Yeah.
Like what you're hearing? Hit that subscribe button and learn how you can change how you're seen and charge what you're worth.
It does. And you never know where you're going to really connect with somebody. Like what we just talked about, your father selling Electrolux. Who would have thought before we got
Total
on
connection.
this call? We didn't discuss that on the last call, right? But very interesting. I knew about the copiers from the last call, but you just never know the depth of the conversation and where that will lead in the congruency that it brings.
Exactly.
I think that this is why, not picking on them too much, but as early entrepreneurs, I've been involved in your business and networking groups, and we only take one real estate agent, we only take one HVAC guy, one speaker, one author, one coach type of thing. I never saw them work, and I actually shied away from them. But I think the reason why, would you agree with this? It's really your question. Is there isn't that follow up? Like, it's literally, hey, I'm going to give you a pitch at Thursday morning coffee, right, at a required meeting. And then everybody just sort of leaves from there and is like, well, I already got an HVAC guy, right? Because you haven't built that relationship with them to be their HVAC guy or whatever. Would you agree?
I agree with a lot of what you're saying. So I belong to a networking group that is, they have exclusive seats, but the heart of the group, the culture of the group is very abundance mindset. One of the guys that leads the group,
very important.
We do the abundance. We don't live in scarcity, right?
I love it.
And so so I think it's the mindset, right, of how the group and the culture of it.
I would agree.
The exclusive, piece of it. And I think, to your point, right, and even in that group, they teach something called I'm blanking on it, but anyway, blanking. But it's an acronym in how to start a networking call or a networking conversation. And I still think it's still a little too transactional, because it starts with, the what do you do dance. And, when people say, when they start a connect call, and Tanya, I don't know if you and I did this. I don't think we did, but, a lot of people start, so tell me about what you do. Here's what I say right to them, Michael. I say this. I say, do you mind if we don't play the what do you do dance? I'd love to just really hear your story, the born and raised. And I kind of slap them upside the head, in a nice way, flip the what do you do dance. Come on, man. Well, because you can't really get to know each other. And there's so much of this going on LinkedIn where people, you got the pitch slapping, and that's with a P, by the way. I'm not cursing. But it's like where people are like just pitching you. And I'm like, so you want to get married before we even have a first date? Come on, let's get to know each other, right? Whatever the old phrase, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And so, so you need to get to know each other, and that's not going to happen if your essence is, who am I going to pitch? And then here's the other piece of it, and then I'll shut up. But the group that we have, they actually allow people that have the same seat to come and visit. Because here's the thing: if you're there, and let's say you are an HVAC guy, and if you feel that you're so unconnected, you're people, that one guy who's an HVAC guy comes to visit one time and they're going to give business to him, then you're not doing your job.
Right.
So don't be threatened by that. So in the mentality with the group is, hey, if that HVAC comes out, he and the other HVAC guy can collaborate. They could share opportunities together. Not they're competing with each other.
Love it. No, I really love that. And I want to say something to this about connections, right? Because you had the connection, like door-to-door sales, then your dad with the Electrolux, and Tanya sold Electrolux. And we found all this out just by having this conversation with you. Right. And I want to go back to something. And I made a joke about you meeting with 3 people. And for those people who are not from like New York, the New York area, may not understand exactly what me and you were talking about, right? I went trying to get an auctioneer's license and a real estate broker's license from Atlanta to New York. It was a nightmare. I couldn't get anybody to tell me where the subway was, even if they knew it was just literally half a block away. Like, it would, I hated the place. I come out of there every time like, oh, I hate this place. These people are so rude. Blah, blah, blah. And then I took my 9-year-old daughter when she was 9. She's in her 20s now. But I took my 9-year-old for Memorial Day, and I fell in love with the city, fell in love with the people, fell in love. I realized that I had approached the whole thing from the wrong angle, right? Yeah. I had approached business as business, and they're hard people, and they're like, well, who's this guy rolling up on me with that twangy accent, right? But then when I bring my daughter in there, I was like, hey, young lady, come in here, do this. It was totally different. And so I just wanted to tie that back in together. I knew exactly what you were talking about when you said, hey, meeting 3 people that you've never met before in the Bronx isn't like the easiest. It's probably a lot easier here in the outskirts of Atlanta to just walk up.
Oh, you have no idea.
Right.
When I travel and I go to the South, after like 5-minute conversation, y'all should come over for dinner tonight. Like, it's like not like New York at all, like it's just, but here's the thing, just to defend New Yorkers, we are really nice people once you get through that rough veneer. And it's just, we're so focused and busy as a culture. It's like, but if you're at a Starbucks and there's, just waiting, people actually, if you break space and you can actually start a conversation, they're actually nice.
They're very nice.
Just when they're focused, they're going someplace, and they and there's also that feeling like initially, okay, what does this guy want from me? Like, what kind of scam?
You're right.
Going to be panhandling? What does he want? Like, there's that kind of going on. So it's just as long as you can kind of break the veneer. Once you break it, it was just a pleasant, nice, pleasant smile, not a goofy smile, but people are actually really nice. But you got to figure out opportunities to break space. And it's just, it's not going to be walking in the street because their guard is up in New York.
Their guard is up. And is that let me tie this back to like your martial arts, right? That, like, did that help you in like systematically approaching how to approach people? Would you tie those two together?
In case they attack me, I get defend myself, right? Not exactly, but in a way. So what martial arts did is help me, really cultivate my grit and my, determination and perseverance, and the self-development part of it. That really, so a lot of it philosophically changed me so that I could be open to wild experiences, weird experiences through meeting strangers. I mean, all that. So in a way, yes, but not because of what you might have been thinking as far as like, I could defend myself kind of thing. Yeah.
More from the psychological, like you said, the psychological standpoint of a determination to it. To try and fail, I guess. Would you say that's part of the process?
Being afraid to fail, not being afraid to fail. That is, yes, and just being like fearless, right? Like my mentor would say, you got to, you don't care, which is good and bad. Like, you don't care. In other words, you'll just walk up to people. And it's like, I do care, but I just, fear the fear and do it anyway. I do it anyway. Right. And so there is that, but also I don't care. I don't care about what people think about me, but also I don't care. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing. It's good and bad. Right. But I think it's the fearlessness. It's that just being able to just, encounter a situation and not be afraid, psychologically, not physically.
And speaking of psychological, let's lean into philosophy just a little bit, Eastern philosophy, right? Your book is titled The Tao of a Master Connector. Tell me why you titled the book that, and who should read this book.
Absolutely. Well, I'll start with The Tao of a Master Connector. So in the martial arts, I train in the Japanese Okinawan style. So the Japanese language was a big part of what we did. And so in the martial arts, in the Japanese world, karate do, which means kara is empty and te is hands. So empty hand, do is the way. Do is the way, dio. And so if you ever heard of the term bushido, right? That's the way of the warrior. Bushi is warrior, do is warrior, is way, and so forth. Judo, the yielding way, and I could go on and on. So do is the way. And so I really wanted to incorporate the martial arts because there's so many parables and stories in the book about my martial arts experience and how it ties into, I think, everything in life, business, everything. And so, I was toying with the idea of the do of a master connector, but people would read it like the do of a master connector. What? Like, and so Bruce Lee wrote a book called The Tao of Jeet Kune Do, and there's the Tao of Pooh, and there's a bunch of Tao books out there. And I think it's a little more mainstream. So I went with Tao, Tao, which is the Chinese version of Do, the way. Yes, there's Taoism. That's not what this book is about in any way. It's not that at all, but it's the way. Okay. And so the subtext is the way an introvert became a master connector. And so, And so there's a little bit of a pun with the book, right? You could see the martial arts, the black belt is in there, and master connector, like there's a bunch of connections, in terms of puns. And I wanted to be a master connector, not the master networker, because I think networking is considered transactional. It's like prostitution or solicitation.
Right.
So
I like it.
so I chose that so I wanted it to be that. So to answer your question, I think anyone can really benefit from it. But, the top, it says inspiring you to kickstart your success journey, right? And then on the backside, it says inspiring you to get out of your comfort zone, right? Because I think that's a big part of what success requires to be successful is number one is getting started, is that kickstart, right? And I've learned from one of my favorite books, The Magic of Thinking Big, just the power of now, of doing it now and not just waiting, right? And action cures fears and all those kinds of things. But also the idea of that comfort zone, and I've learned that comfort zone is your casket. It's I live by the motto that there's danger in the comfort zone, so I try to be uncomfortable being comfortable, if you know what I mean. So
sure.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot that anyone could get. It's not a story that's written straight through. It's not like it's basically little snippets here and there tied together by 4 pillars. The 4 pillars are what I speak about as an inspirational speaker. It's the same 4 pillars of the show, which is, like we spoke about, being others focused, having grit, being authentic, and building community, growing connections. So it sort of ties it all together. But I believe anyone could value from it. But it's certainly if you're an introvert and you're looking to, my feeling is you too can also be a master connector. Anyone can be a master connector.
I agree. Listen, you are putting an incredible new age spin and direction for any of the listeners to the age old. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And I just really feel like connecting with people is the key. I love what you said about that. Rather than networking, it seems so transactional.
And connecting deeper than just what you do,
Yeah.
Years ago, we realized when we first started this branding company that a great brand wasn't just about what you do, wasn't just about being known for your profession. It's about being known for being different inside your profession, still from a business standpoint, right? Yep. Of putting that, presence out there before you, but it's really about getting to know the people behind that more than anything. And I think that's the heart of where you really connect with us, Steve. Sure. So, and speaking of connecting, we usually jot down some takeaways while we're on this interview with you. So we want to shout back out to you the big takeaways that we grabbed from today's conversation with you. Okay. All right. Number 1, listening is the key to networking.
What's that?
You heard me. I caught you, Steve. All right. And that's for introverts and everyone else, right? Listening is always the key to that networking or connecting, better term, right?
Yeah. And then I like the secrets in the follow-up, guys. It's not just about passing out your cards. It's about getting theirs and then having that true, authentic conversation with people in the follow-up.
Yeah. One that really probably spoke to my heart more than anything else you said today is, who can I be a blessing to? Because that's really what life is all about.
Absolutely.
And we normally do 3, Steve, but you have been such a blessing to us and hopefully all the listeners. We're going to do a few more. I love be fearless. And that really strikes home with us. When we first started this podcast, it was Fearless Friday.
That's what it was called.
And it was solely directed towards trying to get people to overcome fear of movement, fear of just staying where they are.
Fear of putting themselves out there in terms of branding.
And of course, we realized right quick that we can only shoot on Fridays, so we changed it. But anyway, be bold is exactly the sentiment, and that really speaks out to us. We love your fearless thought process.
And the final one, although we took away more, but these are the highlights. The final one for today is, this is a Steveism. Do the abundance. Don't live in scarcity. All right.
I'll take credit. I mean, I didn't make it up, but I'll take the credit. Sure.
All right. It's awesome.
Well, it's a Steveism
we first heard it from you, so I'm sure many listeners will too. So,
and Steve, you've been such a fantastic guest. We so appreciate you coming on here today. So please tell everybody how they can learn more about Steve Spiro.
Absolutely. And by the way, I want to say this, it is about connection. It's about, connecting with people, but also it's not about what you know. It's not about who you know, but it's more about who knows you, who knows of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I love to get to know you, right? I love to get for you to connect with me. So connect with me on LinkedIn. I think if you type in Steve Spiro, I'm the first one that shows up all the time, Steve Spiro Master Connector. You can go to master-connector.com. That's my my speaker website. If you're interested in learning about the show, you can see on the screen here, go to masterconnector.show, or just type in Steve Spiro and you'll see me, stevespiro.com. And but I love to connect with you, and I hope that, and by the way, just so you know, if you connect with me on LinkedIn, you're going to get a message say, let's jump on a call, because again, what good is be connected unless you know anything about the person? And I love to have that follow-up conversation. So, but I'd love to connect with you. So thank you. So this has been so amazing being on with you both. Michael, Tanya, you guys are doing an incredible job here.
Thank you so much. And back at you, my friend. Thank you.
Ready to change how you're seen and charge what you're worth? If you're not getting enough opportunities to meet with ideal customers, or the prospects you're meeting with just aren't ideal, it's most likely your brand that's holding you back. So if you're a coach, consultant, or expert who is on the rise, you need our ultimate guide to a freedom-based brand. Download it free now at BrandFaceGuide.com.